Okay,
And
okay, yeah.
no, we're gonna just shoot the breeze, and
Hmm.
I'm not interested in cornering anybody or having any kind of like that kind of gotcha moment or anything like that.
Yeah,
If I disagree with you, I'll tell you, but it will be in a good-natured way and sort of like
yeah.
an attempt to find an answer or find a solution to an impasse as opposed to trying to score points. I'm not interested in that at all. Okay? I mean,
Yeah,
I'm
the,
just telling you that just to allay any concern on your part because that's not my style at all. Okay?
I'm really not concerned about anything. Like, I had streams where people try to corner me and try to fuck me over. But like the thing is, I just don't even engage with them. On one stream, I handed over the Hangout link to Fortune, and they just sit back, started drinking, and enjoyed how his channel burnt down. So
Well,
it's
no,
just
I am going to ask you about those pictures circulating on 4chan of you and some sheep. You know, I want an explanation of that.
whoa, no, okay, cut that out. Okay, cut that out. Okay, we're not talking about that. It was a 2 time thing.
A
Okay,
two-time thing.
three times
I
max.
heard it was more because, like, you know, the pictures I saw, you were like, you know, you stripped it different clothes. So, you know,
Okay, listen. It's not my fault that Betty gave me a feeling of security and comfort, okay? It's not my fault.
well, yeah, I know how Betty can be. She can be just, you know, she's a very comforting sheep. I know that
Yeah.
feeling. We'll talk about it after the conversation. Okay, I'm going to
Okay.
dive in right now. This is Coach Red Pill. I'm joined by Dr. Layman. Dr. Layman is a fellow YouTuber and just a wise and hilarious man. And it's a pleasure having you on. And Dr. Layman, thank you for joining me.
Yeah, hello, Coach Red Pill Duderino. Thanks for having me.
You know, I got to say that I love your channel, and you know, not to suck your dick or anything, but your channel is one of the funniest and at the same time one of the wisest channels around. And one of the things that you were bitching and moaning about is the fact on Twitter you were saying that nobody argues with you, nobody does any response video to you, and the reason that nobody does is because nobody can, because you argue your stuff so tightly that you know there's no room to maneuver. You know, I mean,
I'm,
you're
I'm
just
actually
I'm a
gonna let
huge
you in
fan.
on a little secret here,
What?
right? Just a tiny little secret. Most of my videos after January 2017, most of them are designed with loopholes.
Oh.
There are many vectors of
Oh.
attack that people can take. In several videos, I even said, hey, and if you wanted to criticize this video, this would be a good entry point. And it's
Okay.
like,
And
and,
nobody's taking the bait.
and nobody's taking. And here's the thing: I'm not looking for a fight or anything, right? I'm just looking for, guys. I said something. Please activate your brains and say something back, because it's kind of like screaming into the forest. You know, you just scream
Yeah.
and scream, and yeah, nobody really gives a fuck.
No, no. The one that I really wanted to talk about first is something that really interesting, which is the modernism, postmodernism answer videos that you made to Armored Skeptic. And for the audience who doesn't know, Armored Skeptic made a famously stupid video about postmodernism, and you pretty much took his head with a couple of videos that were just they were incredibly evil because they were so factually accurate, and there was nowhere for poor Armored Skeptic to run, as it were. And they were terrific videos in and of themselves. But the thing that I wanted to talk to you about is that in all this talk about postmodernism and modernism and so forth and so on, it seems that both you and Armored Skeptic were approaching it from the point of view of what thinkers are saying, whereas you both seem to neglect the fact that the idea, the concepts of modernism and postmodernism came from art and literature, and it was only later that philosophers, intellectuals started to like, oh, look at that, and they started creating the intellectual structure of modernism and postmodernism, and there is the key issue that there doesn't seem to be any kind of workable definition. It's if you look it up on the Oxford Philosophical Dictionary, which I looked up, it essentially says, you know, we can be postmodern without even realizing we're postmodern, which is just a ridiculous. There's no workable definition, and I wanted to sort of like pin you down, but in a nice way, of course, as to how would you define it shortly, briefly, like, you know, like a couple of lines or a single brief paragraph. What is modernism? What is postmodernism? I, of course, have an opinion, but I want to hear yours first before I spring it on you.
Right. I'm gonna do that. But before I'm going to do that, I would like to give a quick statement regarding brevity when it comes to definitions of really complicated
Sure.
stuff. There's this really widespread assumption that if you can't summarize something into like a sentence or something like that, then it's not important, then it's bullshit, and then you don't understand it.
Right.
And I kind of understand it, like in a colloquial sense, right? If you can't summarize what soccer is all about or football in a sentence, then yeah, you probably have some issues. But you can't really expect someone to explain to you, for example, some high-level quantum mechanics in just a single sentence, which would basically be stuff can happen and sometimes it does. And that's like, it doesn't tell you anything.
Right.
So I'm really, really cautious about doing like short explanations. Like in the postmodern video that I did, I had to look into 3 or 4 publications just to get a sort of basic sort of understanding across to the audience of what it is all about. With that said, to put it really bluntly, in my understanding, postmodernism is a sort of reaction to modernism.
Right.
It has to be understood as a reaction to modernism. It is inherently a rejection of essentially the one big failure of modernism, which is that modernism, even though it attempted to deconstruct the world around it, it never really did it because it still was self-serious. It was not self-conscious in a way. And postmodernism took that and said, hey, you know what? Nothing really matters. Let's be skeptical about everything. Let's be ironic about everything. Because modernism, you tried to be like super, quote-unquote, skeptical about stuff. But in the end, you were just another rich people movement, rich people assumption, rich people ideology and philosophy. And I'm postmodernism. I'm going to just fuck everything. So it's to put it like in one single sentence, postmodernism is the rejection of grand and or meta narratives.
Okay. Right. Well, okay. That's what you would consider postmodernism, the rejection of meta narratives.
That would be, in my opinion, a very central point, about like 70% of it at least.
Wow. Okay, well, I come from a completely different perspective because, of course, I studied literature and philosophy, and and history also.
Oh, fuck!
Yeah, well, no,
I'm fucked.
No, don't worry. I'll be gentle, and there will be lubricant. Don't worry. Water-based, water-soluble. Anyway, my point, seriously. Well, modernism came out as a reaction in literature, came out as a reaction to World War I and the carnage, the senseless carnage of World War I, right? And for instance, one of the premier pieces of literature, of modernist literature, is Ernest Hemingway's first collection of short stories, In Our Time. And all of the stories are very oblique, and they actually make no sense unless you actually know the history of the First World War and the personal history of Hemingway himself. There's a famous story called Big Two-Hearted, which is about a character, Nick Adams, who is essentially Ernest Hemingway's stand-in, who goes hunting in the woods. And it's never referred to the fact that he was in the First World War. He was severely wounded, nearly died. And he's back in America. He's physically recovered, but emotionally has not recovered. And so the story proceeds, you can read it superficially, and it seems like a very boring story about a man who goes fishing and hunting by himself, not even that successfully, as it were, because he stands around there for a long time fishing and he doesn't catch many fish. And the thing is, of course, if you read it on a superficial level, without referencing something outside of the work, it seems boring, and you just think to yourself, well, why am I reading this? You have to understand it's about, what happened to him in the war. Most of the other stories are similar. For instance, there's a brilliant story, I forget the name of it, it's Smyrna, and it references a battle in World War I that if you didn't know it, you wouldn't understand the reference, and therefore you wouldn't understand the subject. And then you look at the major works of modernist literature, like Ulysses. Ulysses, you have to understand that it's based on Homer's The Odyssey. And so what basically modernism seems to be doing is referencing things that exist outside of the scope of the work, that is sort of like pointing to different things, like the fact of the First World War, like the fact of Homer's The Odyssey and its central position in Western literature. Whereas postmodernism seems to be different in the sense of it seems to be nihilistic in that it is doing like modernism, referencing things outside of its scope, but that don't actually exist. Now, hear me out, because in postmodernist literature, for example, the works of Thomas Pynchon, I don't know if you're familiar with him or if you've heard the name, but he's a bigwig. He's acknowledged as the master of postmodern literature. And he wrote, one of his most famous novels is called The Crying of Lot 49. The Crying of Lot 49 meaning the crying like in an auction. And the whole story is about this woman named Oedipa Maas, who has inherited the fortune of a former lover. And it's a very almost cartoonish and absurdist novel that doesn't seem to make any sense, even as there is a sense that you can almost make some sense out of it. There is a how can I put it? A sensible senselessness, if that makes any sense.
It actually does, yeah.
Okay. And at the end of the novel, you see, Oedipa Maas is waiting in this auction room. She's waiting for Lot 49 to come up to auction because she knows that the person who will win the auction is potentially God. But in a sense of like God doesn't exist. It's like the infinite and the nothing. You see? And it's as if postmodernism is referring to things, just as modernism refers to things outside of its scope that create meaning for it, postmodernism is doing the same in literature, at least, and in painting as well. It is referring to things outside of itself, that as if it were, reaching towards a structure, just as modernism does, and there is no structure. It's empty. It's formless. You see, and so the ultimate sense is that in modernism you can have knowledge. You just have to refer to things outside of itself. Whereas in postmodernism, the sense is there is no possibility of objective knowledge, and therefore everything is subjective, and you are, it's basically nihilistic and solipsistic. That's what it seems to me to be about. Does this make any sense to you, or what are your thoughts on this?
I'm right. I'm still following you. I think the problem is that I'm like I come from a research background. I'm very much illiterate when it comes to literature, so I can't really hold a candle in that regard. But just so I fully understand it, so you're saying that modernist literature in and of itself is still concerned with meaning, and it paints a picture where meaning still has, meaning and value,
right.
while postmodern literature just rejects the entire notion of meaning altogether and deconstructs the concept of meaning.
Yeah, in the sense, it says not just meaning, but significance. Because modernism, again, is structurally based on things that are outside of its own scope. And if you don't know those things, you cannot understand it. Whereas postmodernism is basically saying, yes, we're referring to things outside, but they don't even exist. We're just, randomly waving around, and the only meaning is purely subjective meaning. Purely subjective and therefore emotive, divorced from any kind of rationality. Because that's what I see that what's going on today in our society, that it's completely emotive based. My feelings trump reality, I feel this, therefore it is. I feel that I am, racially profiled and discriminated against, even if I am not. But just by the mere fact of me feeling it, it is true. It exists. It is real. It is as it is. Whereas in modernism, that move would never be made. You see what I'm saying? Or are we getting a little?
I have a counter question. Would you say that H.P. Lovecraft is a modernist author?
I would actually venture to say that he's postmodern.
Okay, good. We agree. Okay, good.
Because I don't think that he's referencing to anything, but at the same time, I believe that his nightmarish stories. I have not read H.P. Lovecraft. I get H.P. Lovecraft secondhand. But my thinking is that, see, he's not referencing, as a writer, he's not referencing anything outside of the scope of his work, but in a weird way, he is referencing the dream landscape that we all collectively share. And that would be really interesting, because if the whole notion of the Jungian notion of a collective unconsciousness is true, then wouldn't Lovecraft be sort of modernist as opposed to postmodernist? By what I'm saying?
Absolutely, I think it comes really down to his intention. Did he actually take a collective subconscious into consideration? Because there are many stories, such as the Dream Quest to Strange Gaddafi, that would actually kind of suggest it. But on the other hand, many of his other stories are just so focused on the perception of a singular character and his singular, essentially, descent into madness, that I don't think he consciously chose a sort of collective subconscious road. But that's, for people who are smarter than me to decide.
No, I don't know either, but it's an interesting question. Though, I mean, I've heard you mention Lovecraft before, and I take it you're a big fan of his?
A jaded lover, I would say.
A jilted lover. Oh, my.
I adore most of his work. He's genuinely the only horror literature author that actually gets under my skin. And then people that came after him, especially August Derleth, took his entire legacy and flushed it down the toilet. And it hurt so badly. It's so horrible. You had legitimate masterpieces with the stuff that he wrote, at least in my subjective perception. I can't make a sort of objective literature judgment because I'm not educated on it, but he's definitely among the top 3 authors of my entire life. And the reason for that is that his entire literature is centered around this idea of you will get fucked. And the horrible thing about it is you will not even understand why you got fucked. It will be so outside of your perception that the fact that you got fucked is not nearly as bad as the fact that you may catch a glimpse of what just fucked you, essentially. And the authors that came after him are basically lol, spooky monsters, haha, monsters did it.
Okay, I mean, so you're basically saying that Lovecraft was more symbolic in his. I mean, his monsters were much more symbolic. Well, that would tie in neatly with Jungian's, notion of the archetypes and that whole thing.
I really wouldn't put his sort of for example, if you take his outer gods, his concept of outer gods, I don't really think that they could apply to a sort of Jungian concept, because if anything, the 2 central gods in his understanding, Azathoth and Jesus fucking Christ, not Nyarlathotep, Yog-Sothoth. Azathoth and Yog-Sothoth. One is the embodiment of the entirety of existence, and the other is the embodiment of the entirety of time. Which is I don't really see a sort of connection to any sort of psychological concept in that regard.
I am not familiar with Lovecraft, so I could not give you an intelligent opinion about it. Okay, so
Okay.
it's we'll have to shelve that for the moment. But the notion that a writer like Lovecraft can tap into a collective unconsciousness. I mean, do keep in mind, Lovecraft he was striving for effect. I mean, let me rephrase it. All writers are striving for effect. Every writer wants his reader to feel a certain emotion, feel a certain way, or think a certain way. That's the whole point of why people write. So Lovecraft was trying to, of course, trying to frighten people. I mean, that was his job as a writer. That's what, I do believe he earned a living as a writer. Am I correct or incorrect?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
Okay.
Even though it was kind of plagued by a lot of misfortune, but which writer isn't? So
yeah. All the great ones have a miserable life. Yeah. But the thing about Lovecraft, well, I can't go further in this conversation so far as Lovecraft is concerned, because I haven't read him. I mean, I'd have to take your word for it. But what I am interested in is that. Hang on, parenthetically, something else that popped into my mind that I want to ask you. And if you don't mind, this is going to steer a little bit towards you. And without going into specific detail, I'm just kind of curious, what's your background? Because all I hear is, this very wise and funny voice, and you have a certain delivery that is really very, very amusing, and it's I think it's wonderful. I just want to ask you about you. What's your background a little bit? I mean, just to give a broad brush, nothing, and not interested in doxing you or anything like that. I'm just kind of curious.
You mean my academic background, or just like
no,
in general?
How old are you? And I understand that you're a researcher. I assume that you actually are a doctor. I mean, a PhD.
No,
Oh,
not yet.
You're studying?
Not quite yet. I'm in my late 20s.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give you the absolute, like the summary of my entire life.
Okay.
I'm in my late 20s. I stopped pursuing a doctor title for private reasons, but I do have a master's title in sociology and in political science to work in the establishment. But then I switched over to private contractors, to private research, and yeah, that's really all relevant stuff there is about me.
No, yeah. I mean, and so now you live in Europe, and you're. Then
I'm traveling Europe and living the dream, doing research here and there and doing YouTube videos.
Yeah, I mean, like, you do these YouTube videos and they're terrific. And I, if you don't mind my asking, I'm kind of curious, because I'm curious about this kind of stuff. What's your motivation? Why are you doing it?
Oh, okay. I actually thought you were gonna ask me something like this, and I thought for like at least like 6 or 7 hours while doing daily chores what I would respond to this.
Oh, okay.
And I still have no fucking clue. It's many things in our lives happen for no reason. We just decide, I like soccer, I like rowing, I like diving. And 4 years, I'd have to check my YouTube, like 4 or 5 years ago, I said to myself, hey, why not do YouTube videos? And I started out, and then I kind of dropped the entire thing for like 2 or 3 months. And then along came Gamergate. And suddenly you had this entire huge controversy, including a controversy surrounding my fields of research. So I told myself, hey, there are so many smart people out there. Why not talk to them? Maybe I'll learn something from them. Maybe they'll learn something from me. And regardless, I'm going to be having fun brushing up on the stuff that I learned.
Right.
So I started doing the videos. And now I'm here.
Yeah, and now you're here. That's really interesting. Because like in my own case, I'm 49, and I have very young children, a 4-year-old daughter and a 2-year-old son. And the thing is, see, I thought to myself, well, especially my son, that worries me, that by the time he's in his 20s and 30s, I'll be a very old man, if not dead. And so my motivation is to do little videos that he could see later, and see his old man in not his prime, but at least in not terrible shape, not decrepit, right? That was my thinking. But at the same time, I'm taking so much care with the videos. Because I don't do slapdash videos. I don't just like nail down what I want to say. I worry about the form and the shape of it. And so I'm starting to realize that it's sort of like a rationalization as to why I do the videos. I can't quite explain why I'm doing it. It's just a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun, and not so much just the feedback from audience members, which is delightful, of course. But it's more like just as an end in itself. It's just a lot of fun, and so I can't quite understand it. It's very interesting.
It's a really weird feeling, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And that's why I was asking you. I mean, because I'm trying to figure out if there's somebody who has some sort of insight as to what exactly is driving a lot of people to do it. Because a lot of people, especially after the whole demonetization thing, I myself don't have even AdSense, so I'm not making any money off of my videos. I'm just doing it just for the hell of it. And I'm devoting a lot of time to these videos. And I'm wondering what the rationale of other people, and if other content creators, such as yourself, have the same drive, that it's sort of like an end in itself, no purpose beyond. Because this certainly isn't helping your professional career, I assume.
How do I put this? Let's put it this way: it's not nearly as bad as people assume. Like I don't really have a problem with disclosing my name if push comes to shove. It wouldn't fuck me over. It wouldn't destroy my entire existence.
Right.
But it's just something. Operational security. I just like this sort of extra fallback layer of security that if anything should happen, all I need to do is just scrub Dr. Layman off the internet and I'm clean.
Oh, no. I don't mean in that sense. I mean, like, it doesn't give you any professional benefits to do this. You know?
Oh, no, not at all.
Not at all. Yeah. I don't mean in the sense that it could hurt you professionally, but rather in the sense of it doesn't really... It doesn't make you professionally any better than you are, right? And in my case, right. It wouldn't help me at all either. So it's sort of like an end in itself, and I like very much the fact that it is an end in itself, because in a weird way it makes it much more pure. And
absolutely.
Yeah, and one of the things that is driving me absolutely nuts is that I see how YouTube is playing with the algorithm and, you know, screwing some people over, and sometimes I get like weird numbers on my subscriber count. And it just drives me a little bit nuts, because it's not that of course I want the higher sub count, but I want it as a scorecard, as an honest scorecard, okay? But not because I'm going to get any benefit out of it, but just as an end in itself. And when YouTube screws with that, it's like it pisses me off, you know. And it's like you know you're playing basketball for fun with your friends, and then you know somebody's messing with the scoreboard while you're playing. It's like, no, don't do that. Come on, you're throwing me off. You know, it just, you know, a lot of the YouTube. Go ahead.
I really get that feeling. Like I did have it as well when I was at like, you are at like 9,000 subscribers.
Yeah, 9,500. I'm
9,500. Right.
Yeah, but it's been really slow as of late, and I get the feeling that I'm being fucked over by the YouTube algorithm.
You know, people like you piss me off. I'm not gonna lie, you piss me off.
Why?
I've been stuck between 1,000 and 3,000 subscribers for like a good 2 years.
Yeah, but you're at how much? How many are you at now? Like 40 something?
I'm at 48,000 right now.
Oh, boo-hoo, you know, like, I was stuck at between 1,000, 3,000 for so long, and you're bitching and moaning at 50,000. Screw you.
all I'm saying is just be grateful, man. 9,000 subscribers is fucking amazing.
Yes, it is.
That's a lot. That's like really a lot, in my opinion.
Yeah,
at least in our niche thingy.
Yeah.
What I wanted to say is, I think you can really make a distinction between two types of content creator. Mm-hmm. You have people that are really sort of, I am here because this is my business. I'm concerned with making money.
Right.
And people like Ahmed Skeptic, for example, are a good example of that.
Yeah.
He's primarily, in my understanding, a businessman.
Yeah.
There's no shame in that, but the content is not, quote unquote, pure, as you put it.
No.
On the other hand, you've got the hobbyist people. They may make money off YouTube, but they would make the same type of content even if they weren't making any money.
Sure.
Like, I know that if I weren't making any money on YouTube, I would be doing exactly the same shit I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, the same with me. I mean, I don't make anything. Although I did discover, because I set up a Patreon account just for the hell of it, and I ignored it. And then I recently went to see it. There's like a lot of money there, and I'm like, "Whoa, yeah. that's nice." And now I'm realizing I'm gonna have to get serious about the Patreon thing, because there are actually people there who are supporting me, and I don't want to let them down, as it were. But yeah, the thing is also, what has happened to me is that sometimes when I put up an unpopular video and I lose subscribers, I'm like, oh well, you know. I don't really worry about it, because I figure, you know, would I have made a different video? No. So what am I supposed to do about it? You know, I mean, you know, that's the video I make, and I respect the people who are in it for as a business. But I think that what bothers me are certain people that I realize are pretending to do it as a hobby or but they're really a business people, and it feels like a lot of the people in the skeptic community, or what's, you know, skeptic TM community, are sort of like that. It drives me a little bit nuts. You know, it seems that like it drives me a little bit nuts, because I don't think that they're just trying to get the money and sell the T-shirts, as opposed to and you know, popularize memes, as opposed to actually doing anything with their audience, because they assembled huge audiences. I mean,
oh yeah,
like, you know, Sargon has 700,000 subscribers. And essentially he's repackaging, you know, SJW outrage, and instead of doing something with that on, I don't know. What? Go ahead.
Sargon is an oddball. Sargon is a really interesting case because I think the big problem with him is that he kind of, and Sargs, I love you, but I think that Sargon grew a bit too fast. He is smart. He's actually smart and well read. He has a pretty good understanding of history. Like whenever we talk about stuff, especially in private, he shows just how much he actually knows, and I think he's maybe potentially selling himself a little bit short. But here's the thing: I think he may be doing that absolutely on purpose. In his understanding, he's very much in a sort of mentality of cultural war. Like he's very much concerned with beating back the SJW tide or what have you. And the videos like This Week in Stupid, even though not being like intellectually magnificent, they further his goal of fighting the culture war. But that is at least my understanding. So I really wouldn't put Sargon as an example of a sort of businessman of YouTube.
Well, perhaps you're right. But I don't doubt that he's a bright guy. And I get the feeling that, from what I understand of his biography, that he had sort of like dabbled in different things, and then he sort of like hit gold with the YouTube, and it really allowed him to flower as an individual. Good for him. There are lots of people who are very, very talented who never have that opportunity. Very, very talented, but who do not conform to the traditional kind of like, good school, university, that kind of compliance track, if you want to call it that. There are a lot of very bright people who just simply don't fit into that, but yet they're still very bright and they could contribute greatly, and they live their entire lives frustrated. And so lucky for Sargon that he found this niche where he could really, flower. Good on him. But what I find kind of depressing is that on the one hand, it seems, from the outside at least, that they're making hay with the whole bashing SJWs, bashing feminists, and now they're pivoting to bash alt-right just for the sake of the hits, just for the sake of the subscribers. It seems kind of cheap, but
Actually, there is a pretty similar phenomenon. I don't know the proper academic name for it, but colloquially we call it the Silicon Valley or the Hollywood phenomenon. If you've got a large number of content creators or people that work with content creators, there will be a sort of really weird hive mind situation going on. So, for example, if you look at Hollywood trends, you will find out that, for example, one year is pretty fantasy heavy, one year is pretty zombie heavy, and so on and so forth, without the people actually colluding to do stuff. It's just that one friend has this bright idea about being high, and he calls two other people, and those two people know a few producers, and so on and so forth. And something very similar is going on with the YouTube game. Most content creators, not all, know each other at least like over like a friend or something like that. Like I could get to Sargon directly. I could get to Uzalu over a friend, stuff like that.
Yeah, everybody is two, three people at most, two people away from everybody else. Yeah, of the content creators.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so if one person is like, oh man, the alt-right really sucks, and he talks to a few of his friends, those friends will pick it up, talk about it with other people, and suddenly you've got this group mentality thingy going on. If we look back into Gamergate...
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm assuming that this is actually studied and this has been verified, I would guess.
I would have to look it up, but the Hollywood effect, as far as I know, is pretty much very well verified. It's basically very simple network analysis.
Sure, that makes sense. Yeah, so everybody now is doing the, alt-right hit pieces. Yeah.
All I want to say is I don't think it's essentially colluding. I don't think it's meant to be like, let's all time our stuff and let's fuck the alt-right up to get subscribers and views and money. But it's more like, hey, someone brought the alt-right to my attention and now I'm going to do a video about it. Yeah. And that someone was basically just another content creator.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. But in my own case, I'm trying to step back from that whole thing because I realize that it can suck you up and suck you dry and make you do content that's kind of like inside baseball. I don't know if you've ever heard of that term.
No, but it sounds pretty horrible.
Yeah, inside baseball is like when people who are like talking about baseball all the time and they talk about every little statistic about baseball, and people outside of baseball, they could care less. Because it's trivial, right? And it seems like there's a lot of inside baseball stuff going on in the YouTube community. But it's really interesting, but it's also what I'm finding a little bit unnerving is that the community is very parochial, and in my own case,
Wait, I gotta look the word up. Parochial. Give me a second.
parochial, Paro, very small townish, very of a small town that tends to think that its own problems are very important.
Ah, okay, understood.
Yeah, and so it seems that our little corner of the internet, of the YouTube, is a bit parochial, and sort of like it's sort of like the same people, and I'm sort of like reaching out to a few people who are sort of like outside of it, because I mean outside of it who are content creators but are in different areas. Because also, like for instance, one of the things I'm really interested in is history, and there's this great channel called The Cynical Historian. I don't know if you've heard of it.
Cynical Historian. Let me take a look at him.
I'll link to it below. It's a fantastic channel. This guy, he goes over just different historical epochs and different, different things, and sort of like cleans it up, in the sense, not cleaning it up, rather dirties it up by telling you what actually happened, and not making it so black and white, and making it a lot more nuanced. The classic history that we all grew up with, that these were the good guys, those were the bad guys, this is what happened, and the good guys won, right? Yeah. Yeah, like for instance, everybody talks about, like, now it's the whole thing about Nazis, right? Nazis evil, automatically evil, and of course, if you ask a Nazi in 1940, he wouldn't have thought of himself as an evil man. He would have thought of himself as a very righteous man, and he would give you very, very good reasons for thinking that. And so it seems that so much of it is stripping away of motivation. But I'm going off topic. What is your thought? You're a pretty smart guy. You're an exceptionally smart guy, and I'm sure you've thought of this. So I'm interested in your thoughts as to where do you see the future of YouTube? Because it seems increasingly clear. I sort of like conditioned this question. It seems increasingly clear that YouTube itself does not really like independent content creators, and wants to become like a network, like a cable operator, and wants to squeeze out all these little content creators, us basically, squeeze them out and have just marquee names, CNN, the Young Turks, etc. What do you think of the future of the platform? And I don't want to spend too much time on this issue, but I'm very curious as to your opinion about it.
Right. I've actually spent some time looking into YouTube and trying to understand what exactly is going on. But I'm not going to lie. I think that any prediction right now at this point is completely vapid and completely useless, because right now YouTube exists in a really weird state of uncertainty, question mark. It could grow even larger. It could completely crash within 5 to 10 years. It could completely reverse course and become completely user-oriented, even though it's unlikely it is possible. Or it could become essentially a glorified collection of TV channels. What I think we'll be seeing in the coming years is an increasing sort of quote-unquote quality control. Right now, if you, like, this is what YouTube has been doing since its inception. If you remember YouTube, like, say, 6, 5, 7 years ago, something like that, YouTube was fucking garbage. Right, like, your YouTube page was fucking just spammed to all hell with all kinds of stuff that you didn't want to see. And most of it was just really bad content. Yeah. Like some guy out of breath going through the forest, just awkwardly waving the camera around while screaming about the Illuminati. 100,000 views, And everyone was like, yeah, really good content, man. Oh, fucking amazing content.
Yeah.
And I think that YouTube will increasingly, through the search algorithm, try to really sort of centralize consumption on just a few really good networks of channels, essentially. That is, in my book, the most likely outlook. But at the same time, they literally can't get rid of smaller channels, because small channels are really important for YouTube, because most big channels start as small channels.
Sure.
So I think that we will stay largely untouched. But another thing, distant friend of mine, I'm not going to go into details here, worked on a software solution in terms of network analysis, which was basically able, like, it's kind of related to the Google fingerprint, if you've ever heard that.
The Google what?
The Google fingerprint. Ever heard of that?
No, what is that?
Okay, it's a sort of I don't even know if they ever really finished the project. I don't know. Okay, so basically, get the following. You right now drop everything you have, all your possessions, okay? You drive to the airport, you get a completely clean laptop, and you go to a country you've never been before, and you don't tell anyone where you're going, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The idea of a Google fingerprint is that within a year or so, even 6 months really, people can identify you with a very high accuracy and say, hey, this guy in, say, Argentina is Coach Red Pill, based on your behavior on search platforms like Google and YouTube. And I think it's currently in a stage of experimentation with law enforcement. I don't know exactly. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But a distant friend of mine worked on something really similar in terms of YouTube and in terms of another social platform that I'm not going to name for legal reasons.
Yeah.
And what he basically described is it's completely irrelevant what you do in your videos after a certain point with this algorithm. If you watch your video, for example, and then actively search for, say, Sargon's video, and maybe even give it a like or something like that, you may be put in a certain category of YouTube. And YouTube may just do blanket statements about categories. For example, all people that like Sargon, watch Coach Red Pill, and enjoy anti-feminist content, all of them get demonetized. YouTube can do that no problem if they have this sort of entry point to it.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, if YouTube does have this, which I assume they do have, it's no problem for them to completely demonetize everything they don't like.
Mm-hmm. Well, they're basically doing that. Yeah.
Right now, it's really weird. Right now, I assume it's done on video transcription, because I was not demonetized until 2 weeks ago, for example.
Mm-hmm. And since 2 weeks ago, all of your videos have been demonetized?
About 70%.
And that includes that 70% includes your new content.
Let me take a look at it. I don't really even bother with monetization, to be honest. It's just a nice bonus. Fuck. Also, the new hey YouTube, if you're listening in, your new layout is fucking garbage. I hate you so much.
Yeah, that's why I have it on my on my browser. I deliberately said no to it because I just didn't like it. It just seems weird. You know, it's just yeah. Well, YouTube has never been particularly good at that. You know, because I was on on. Go ahead.
I appealed. Right, okay, it's about 60%. Most of my new content is okay. But these sort of rules for the monetization are really weird, okay? Really controversial stuff that I've done, like the Armored Skeptic videos, are monetized. But my academic look into the concept of a golden age of journalism, which literally is just 30 minutes of just autistically reciting texts, is demonetized.
Oh, man.
No, I don't know, man. I don't care.
No, yeah, I think it's ridiculous, the whole thing. Although, okay, let me rephrase that. It is not ridiculous because there are a lot of people whose livelihoods depend on this, and they have been severely hurt, and that's not fair at all, you know. And they have to go hat in hand to their audience to beg for money.
It is not fair. That much is true. But if you I don't mean to sound evil or something like that, or mean or condescending, but
twirling your mustache time.
Yeah, kind of. But here's the thing: if you make a YouTube channel and you drop your job just to live with your YouTube channel because it's going well, and if the YouTube channel gets fucked, you are just as much to blame as YouTube, to be honest.
Victim blaming! I can't believe it!
I know, but like if you build a house in a hurricane zone, you may face a hurricane.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it was foolish of them to put all their eggs in one basket, because I'm actually going to do a video about this in a couple of days, which is, the person whom you depend on owns you. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, if you have 10 clients and you lose one client, well, it's going to be 10% of your income. I mean, hypothetically, right? So it's not the end of the world. But if you have just the one client and he drops you, or worse, demands a 50% pay cut, you know,
yeah,
whose fault is that? Theirs or
Welcome
yours?
to YouTube.
Exactly. The thing that drives me nuts is that in the golden age of trust busting back in the United States at the turn of the 20th century, in the late 19th century, early 20th century, when there was a concerted effort to break up the big railroad monopolies and banking monopolies and oil monopolies, what we're experiencing online is vastly worse than what happened
absolutely.
at the end of the 19th century, beginning of the 20th. And nobody is saying anything about this, all right? Because, look, the thing is, see, I have a fairly good grasp of the history of this because, this all started, believe it or not, by an imbecilic introduction to an Ayn Rand book written by a very young Alan Greenspan, who basically said that monopolies were not, he wrote this in 62 or 63, I think, and I forget the name of the essay, but it was a famous one in economics. And the basic.
Hey, could we take a tiny break right now? I'm really sorry.
Sure.
Fine. It's just that I didn't want the recording to have like all kinds of noise in the background.
Oh,
that's all.
You moved. Oh, okay. No.
And now we should be good to go, I think.
Okay. Yeah. No problem.
We were talking about Ayn Rand and a preface written by a certain
Alan Greenspan.
Greenspan.
Alan Greenspan became the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board, right? Mm-hmm. And he was the one who created what became known as the Great Moderation, which is basically the Federal Reserve maintained liquidity through the U.S. banking sector to ensure that the stock market was up. And he wrote a very famous essay. He is a much more crucial figure than people seem to realize. And I'm looking forward to somebody really doing a really, really good biography and analysis of him, sort of like along the lines of the Robert Caro analysis of Lyndon Johnson. Because Greenspan, when he was a young man in 62, 63, he wrote this preface. I mean, it was a 2-page preface to this Ayn Rand book. I forget which one. Not one of the big novels, something else, some nonfiction thing that she wrote. And in it, he basically said that monopolies were a good thing because irrespective of who controls a market, so long as the monopolist was efficient and delivering cheap goods to consumers, all was good. And of course, by definition, a monopoly will be more efficient than a competitive market, because if there's only one monopolist, he doesn't have to expend effort to push out the other competitors or make a place for himself at the table. He owns the table, all right? So he will be more efficient. He will be able to pay workers less. He will be able to push his suppliers in terms of prices and what have you, and he'll be able to deliver better prices. And this notion of monopolies continued with Greenspan. And today, the regulators, the reason regulators, I mean, this is something that drives me nuts. There is no free competition in the United States because regulators are not interested in breaking up monopolies. And so they allow monopolies or monopsonies. Monopolies are when there's a single seller. A monopsony is when there is a single buyer. And YouTube is a monopsony in the sense that they are buying content from content creators and paying them with ad revenue, right? That's essentially what's going on. And they're the only game in town. VidMe is not a platform that comes close. And there are others like BitChute that are developing, but they are tiny, microscopic. And they have certain technical problems that make them not so efficient as YouTube. And so YouTube is the only game in town, and nobody is thinking that Google should be broken up. But it seems increasingly clear that we have monopoly, we have Amazon, and we have Facebook, and they are, gobbling up the entire internet. Well, Facebook not so much. I think that Facebook is on the way out, but that's for another conversation.
I would actually agree on the Facebook comment, but as I said, another conversation.
Actually, let's do a quick detour in that regard. Why do you think that it's on the way out? I'm kind of curious.
We have to look at the history of the internet. GeoCities. Oh, this is amazing! This is gonna be here forever. Dead. MySpace. Oh, this is amazing! It's gonna be here forever. Dead. Facebook. Oh, this is amazing! It's gonna be here forever. Dead. It's. I think a death of a social network is completely inevitable. Completely inevitable. It's all a matter of time until you get another platform that's. What the fuck do I know? A fair trade, gluten-free social platform or something like that.
Right.
People will jump on it. Essentially, all you need is a few really crucial content creators. Say that the entire group are surrounding IDAPS or something like that suddenly jumps on a new social platform, and the social platform allows you to do some crazy shit like, I don't know, vandalize each other's timeline or something like that.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Millions would jump
join.
ship off
Yeah.
of Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, actually, no. I have a completely different and completely silly reason to think that Facebook is on the way out. Zuckerberg sold is planning on selling $12 billion worth of Facebook stock.
Really?
Yeah, over the
I
next
didn't know that.
well over the next 18 months. That's why I think that Facebook is on the way out, because he's a sharp customer. Well, you know, he's an alien. He has to be smart, you know.
Yeah. He's a fucking cyborg, I told you.
You think he's a cyborg? I think he's a lizard people, you know, but a lizard person or
I
a
think
lizard
he's all three.
entity. All three, like a cybernetic
Like,
lizard person?
yeah. No. Here's the thing. He's half lizard, half cyborg, half alien, and 200% retarded. Trust me, the math works out.
Well, I'm not going to check.
It's
I'm not going to
postmodern
doubt your
math.
math, you know, because you know your math, so I'm sure that you're right. But no, my thinking is that when the top guy sells out, he knows that the market's peaked for his. You know, you only sell out when you know you're walking out. You can never time a market to sell out at the peak, right? It's impossible. Anybody who says that they sold out at the peak, they got lucky or they're lying, right? But you only sell when you sense that the peak is either near or has passed. My thinking is that he thinks that it passed, and so now is a good time to get out. He'd never sell if he still thought that it was going to climb into the future. Why would he? He doesn't need the cash. If you need $12 billion, you either have some very, very large project all lined up, or you know that this is the game. You know, that's the ball game, and you want to walk out the door. So that's my thinking as to why Facebook is on the way out, and why I think Google is going to be around for a good long time, and why Amazon, Jesus Christ, they're taking over all of retail, and they are basically becoming.
Oh, Amazon is insane.
You know, and I went to their Whole Food store. I don't know if they have them in Germany or wherever you are. I don't actually know where you are, Germany or Central Europe. But I went to one here in London.
They are currently the first food stores, yeah.
Yeah, the Whole Food store is creepy as hell and incredibly overpriced, by the way. But yeah, that's the future. They're taking over the whole thing. And I think that if I were Walmart, I'd be scared. But you see, here you have Walmart and Amazon. These are monopolies. What? What's that?
From a sociological perspective. Oh, is my connection shit?
Yeah, a little bit. Hello?
Okay. So let's just wait a second until my connection fixes itself.
Okay. You seem to be okay now?
Right. Right. From perspective,
Hello?
Amazon is the end of retail.
Right. Yes. It is the end of retail. Hello?
No, that's all I wanted to say about Amazon.
Oh, okay. Yeah, they're the end of retail. But, well, this whole notion of monopolies just drives me nuts, and nobody's saying anything, and everybody's just very comfortable with this kind of monopoly thing. And when the monopolist, or the monopsonist, as the case of YouTube, decides on something, everybody gets screwed, and there's no appeal, there's no competition, nobody can go anywhere to save themselves. Now, I think it was Philip DeFranco who pointed out something recently, just a couple of days ago, as a matter of fact. He said that Vine was a very vibrant platform, but the content creators were very unhappy for various reasons, and there was this big powwow between the top 20 Vine creators and the Vine upper management. And the upper management really didn't answer any of the concerns of those top 20, and they essentially left. And within a year, Vine collapsed. I think that, like you say, if some other content creation platform arises where, the top 20 names, iDubbbz and a few other big names decide to all jump ship, it could be curtains for YouTube, but for the time being, this is what we have. But anyway, yeah, I'm trying to think of where to go after this, because it's sort of boring to talk about, this kind of stuff, because at the end, for us, it's interesting, but for the audience, it's inside baseball shit.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It actually is.
Yeah. Let me ask you something, though, a little bit meta insofar as your channel is concerned.
Yeah.
Because my goal in my channel has been always very clear. It seems to me that young men today don't have any kind of direction. They don't have any kind of, they're told to sort of like fend for themselves, but they haven't been given even the weapons with which to fend for themselves. And they're sort of like feeling their way through their existence in this society. And they're constantly being harassed and abused at the same time. And so the notion of my own channel is sort of like to give a little bit of guidance and direction to young guys. That's been my stated purpose. That's why I have such a ridiculous moniker, because I think that Coach Red Pill is just absurd moniker, but it makes sense because it reminds me and the audience of what I'm trying to achieve. What are you trying to achieve, with your channel? I'm interested not in not like holding you up against the wall, but actually in a genuine. What do you feel is your purpose with your channel?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. It's here's the thing. It changes over time quite a bit.
Okay.
When I started out, I wanted to get to 1,000 subscribers and just have a little bit of internet fame, just talk about stuff, and to have this sort of. I think it was like a big motivator to talk about stuff that I liked and stuff that I disliked. Then over time, I became very much focused on growing my channel, like around say 10 to 20,000 subscribers. I was really down that my channel didn't grow and all the other channels started growing. I was envious, I was jealous as fuck.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, okay, enough with the growth. Please stop. I don't want this. Stop. And right now, I just want to have fun, to be honest. Like, this is a hobby, first and foremost. I just want to hang out with people, all kinds of people, talk about stuff, do videos, and maybe learn something.
No, what I find interesting is that I'm able to talk to people whom, under other circumstances, I never would have gotten to talk to or meet, and whose perspectives I find really interesting, because uniformly all the content creators, the more successful ones, are all exceedingly interesting people. And they have points of view that are really very different from my own, which is interesting. And I'm trying to figure out how is it that we as a society can break out of this. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself in my argument, which is the following. It seems clear that the social media, it sort of like gives us, the recommended list, you get more of what you already watched. So you become, everybody gets into a bubble. We all know this, right? How can we break through these bubbles to, reach out to different audiences, get different content creators? Because I look sometimes at my own feed, and it's the same old people, and they're great, but I'm tired of them. I want more people, different people, and people who challenge my perspectives. How can we as a society do that? I'm talking about the society of the West, the Western democracies.
Right. I don't think we can.
Because?
Like, if we look at filter bubbles, and I do have a few publications on my nightstand, actually, because I did a bit of research into it. One of them is best du sleep mit die Filterbubble zu gehen? Das Buch? Give me a second.
Sure.
One of them is from Ellie Parisa, Filter Bubble, how we are losing our agency on the internet. Pretty good book by Parisa. Can definitely recommend it. And the problem with the filter bubbles, if you want to, I can even give you a download link for the PDF, I think.
Okay, great. Do that.
Right, we'll do that. Right. Anyway, if you look at filter bubbles, there's this weird assumption that it exists only on a sort of technological level, that there is only a sort of technological bubble.
Right.
The sad truth is that the technological bubble is a result of our social bubble.
Right.
In our day-to-day lives, we create bubbles around us and around ourselves, not only around us as individuals, but also around groups, essentially.
Right.
What people say when they are saying, hey, let's break the bubble, is essentially, hey, let's completely drop any kind of value judgment of human interaction, of social connection, of family, marriage, friends, whatever, and let's all be neutral automatons. Because the second you apply a tiny bit more value to the opinion and the presence of your friends and the absence of your enemies, that moment creates a filter bubble. And yeah, as no, it's just impossible to get rid of it.
So
If that makes any sense.
yeah. So do you think that therefore we will become politically more and more polarized?
Oh, I think we've always been polarized. It's gonna. I don't know if it would get
No,
more and more polarized because there is.
I think it's extraordinarily polarized at this point. I mean, I've never I mean I don't mean to pull rank, but I'm 20 years older than you, and I've never seen this kind of political polarization in the Western democracies, where you have this right-wing minority that is pointing out things that are actually true, and a left-wing establishment that refuses to accept things that are actually true, which I find just bizarre. And go ahead.
Between 1920 and 1930, even 34, even and 1934, Germany was a battleground between communists, fascists, and monarchists.
Right.
In the late 18th century, and the entirety of Western Europe was a battlefield, especially France. In the 17th century, England, rather Great Britain, was a battlefield beyond all belief. During the late 19th century, Russia was polarized beyond all belief. You had a sort of hardcore old-school monarchist establishment, you had monarchist reformists, and you had the newly arised peasantry, you had the new communists. And I think that we have a very sort of limited scope on these things. Yes, it's true that there is a large degree of polarization between the new left and the new right. But, I mean, we are still not storming the streets armed to the teeth with machine guns and killing each other.
Yeah, no, very good point. And you are pointing out a bias that I at least certainly have, which is that during the post-war peace, the enmity with the Soviet Union and the Warsaw Pact created a certain kind of political entente between the left and the right. And now that the Soviet Union is gone and the Warsaw Pact threat is gone, that those political differences are becoming worse and worse. But also, we have to admit that the center has completely collapsed as any kind of a coherent political philosophy. Nobody believes in it anymore.
I would be very careful with a statement like that.
Okay.
It depends largely on the country. Like, if you say the United States, I think I would support that. I don't have data, but like feelings-wise, I would support that. But like Germany, most of Eastern Europe, England to a great extent, the Netherlands, Belgium, even Italy, Switzerland, most of those countries have a very strong center at the moment.
None of those countries or all of those countries?
Most of those countries have a very strong center.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely. Like, even if you look at like the election results of, say, Germany, of course you can make the argument, yes, the AfD, a sort of new, very right-wing-ish party, got to 13%, therefore the center is dying. But that argument would overlook that...
Yeah, 60% voted for the center parties, yeah.
Essentially, yeah, absolutely. It's not as strong as it was in the 70s and 80s, that much is true, but saying that the center collapsed in Europe is just, frankly speaking, a bit catastrophic, fatalist.
It's fatalist. I agree, but perhaps my thinking is more along the lines of, and politically, they are getting the votes, yes. But it doesn't seem that they have any program. It doesn't seem that they have a vision for the future, except more of the same, sort of like just trudging along. I don't know. I mean, as I'm saying this, I'm realizing how weak what I'm saying is. But I suppose it's just this feeling that there isn't a strong center that has a clear and consistent vision as to where to take the democracies of the West forward. It seems more just very tentative. But that's, go ahead.
I think there's a big line of conflict between two types of politics, or rather policy making. On the one hand, you have the big idealists of the 19th and 20th century, right? Those are the people that had those grand ideas of how do we get to a utopia. And those ideas were grand because most of it wasn't tried yet. Right. Most of it had to be tried, experimented with. And over time, in the 19th, 20th, and 21st century even, we figured out that there are many issues with the concept that we came up with. Like, people have this weird understanding that, hey, we created a democracy in 1792, and after that, it was always exactly the same, which is not the case. It's a patchwork family. It's a horrible, horrible patchwork monstrosity. Our current establishment is an abomination of just patchworking beyond all belief, and people don't really understand that point. What point was I making? Quick, help me out. What were we talking about? What were we talking about?
That the political center was dead.
Right, okay.
Long live the extremes.
And right. On the one hand, you have this sort of idealistic way of doing politics. On the other way, you have a very sort of minute attention to detail and a very sort of quote unquote realistic or quote unquote even scientific way of doing policies. Like, for example, in Germany, there was a big issue with the concept of a Überhangsmandat, which, to put it shortly, a party could gain percent, but essentially lose seats in the government.
Right, yeah.
Which is a huge problem. That's like fucking unacceptable.
Yeah, of course.
But
it
for the
violates
longest
the whole
time,
concept of a representative democracy.
Absolutely. But for the longest time, people didn't care about it. Why? Because it's such a minute detail of our essentially system that, why should I bother with that?
Yeah,
with a technological...
the parties were 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Everybody was more or less in agreement.
Not necessarily, but the problem really is I could either be concerned with some technological stuff, like government stuff, like this Überhangmandat that I personally don't understand, or I could protest against nuclear power. What do I choose? One is something that I don't really understand. I don't even know if it's important or not. And the other I feel really strongly about because the environment, man. And that's the sort of, I think, the line of thinking that happened with most people. At the same time, you gotta keep one thing in mind. A sort of complacency, a sort of, I don't care, it's all the same, doesn't always mean that it's not working well. It actually could be a sign of things working exceptionally well, because if you don't feel the need to vote, you're happy.
Yeah, no, I agree. I've never thought that low voting rates is a problem. I've thought that it means that basically people are content. Because
Absolutely.
If you don't bother, it's like, it doesn't really matter. Then what? You're going to be happy with either candidate, which means that you're essentially happy with how things are going overall. But it seems that there is a growing discontent, both on the left and the right. The right sees certain things, and we are more on the right-wing corner of YouTube, but the left also sees problems, and problems that I'm very sympathetic towards. Most specifically, the hollowing out of the middle classes in the Western democracies. The fact that all those jobs were offshored, I think that was catastrophic. There was horrible decisions that never should have been made. And the thing to see, there's no way to get those jobs back, except except on the other side of some sort of economic cataclysm, whereby free trade would be curtailed and the whole thing would go tits up in a catastrophic way that would make the Great Depression look like a tea party.
Like a fucking joke.
Yeah, exactly. And so barring some sort of catastrophe like that, there is simply no way that all those jobs are going to come back. And so what are we going to do with these huge swaths of the populations of the Western democracies? Because at least, the middle classes and lower middle classes, working classes, the women have pink-collar jobs, nursing and teaching and other traditionally female jobs that cannot be outsourced overseas. But what are the men doing? And in the United States, I can't speak for Western Europe because I don't know the statistics, but in the United States, the opioid epidemic among what used to be working class people who held down steady jobs but no longer have steady jobs because their jobs are gone, it's catastrophic in places that you never imagined that this is going on. People are stupefying themselves out of obvious depression. I mean, you're not shooting up heroin because you're living a happy life. You're shooting it to escape your miserable life, right? And so,
well, maybe you just like it, but well, that's a different point.
You get to like it, yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't know what your experience with illegal drugs is. Mine is.
Oh, mate, you have no idea.
Oh, really? That sounds interesting.
I'm actually like I often say this as a sort of joke.
Yeah.
But the following sentence is meant completely and 100% seriously. I'm a recovering junkie, and the only reason why I haven't killed myself yet is because I'm too much of a coward to do it.
Really?
I shit you not.
What was your poison? I mean, I was into pot, speed, amphetamines in a big way, LSD, big LSD, And
Oh yeah, yeah.
yeah, I love that. Never got into
I,
smack. Never got into heroin, and
yeah,
never got into anything that was smokable apart from pot. Yeah,
right. I did everything except stuff that you inject.
yeah, yeah,
Like just there was a point in my life where I started snorting stuff and I didn't know what it was. It was just some
yeah. I
powder and
did
was
that
like,
too. No, it was pills. I just like look at the
oh
pills
yeah.
in my hand. I look at them and like, oh, the green and white and yellow. Gobble
Let's see
gobble.
what
Oh, what
happens. Yeah.
happens, man? Yeah. Yeah, I remember like taking a couple of tabs of ecstasy. The first time I ever somebody like, ooh, here are like these pills, and he was holding them right. We were about to go into a rave. He had like 3 or 4, and I just snatched them and just shoved them in and swallowed them, and he was furious. And I hit the roof in about 10 minutes.
Yeah,
And it was
Jesus.
just fantastic. It was like Johnson's baby acid. I loved it. But
Hey, I got a fucking amazing story.
tell me.
Um, it was a rave, as usual, and
Sure.
one of my friends had a bottle of wine with him, and I was like, "Hey, wine, nice." And I started drinking it, but it wasn't wine. And he said, "Hey, man, how do you like my tea?" And I'm like, "Oh, dude, this is fucking amazing!" Like it had like this really sort of sweet, tangy flavor, really a lot of sugar in it, a bit of licorice, I think.
Uh-huh.
And I emptied the bottle while he wasn't looking,
Okay.
and he started kind of freaking out. Shrooms. and I completely lost control over everything, right? And next
Oh
morning,
man. Damn.
I just, dude, I oh Jesus, like holy shit.
No. I made a whole video on drugs that I'm gonna link below just so that people can see it. My thinking on drugs is that look, the best reason to take drugs is out of curiosity, to see what it'll do. The worst reason is because you're feeling miserable and you want some sort of pick me up. That's the worst reason.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because then it just becomes a monkey on your back and you're a goner, right? I
You
take
feel
it.
miserable because you don't take them. You take them to not feel miserable. Yeah, you're fucked.
Yeah, you're fucked. Yeah, but if you're like, ooh, what's this gonna do to me now? Then that's actually I think the best attitude. I tell them, my kids, my subscribers, I tell them this: drugs. If it grows, it's probably safe. If it's a powder, just be careful. Number 2, your dealer is not your friend. He's just your dealer, and he's a charismatic scumbag, but he is a scumbag. And if you're a girl, he's going to try to fuck you. And if he's a guy, I don't know if this happened to you, but in every place that I consumed drugs, there were 4 major cities in the U.S. I mean, where I was like consuming regularly with that I knew at least 2 drug dealers, right? They constantly, I mean, I knew of at least 1 or 2 dealers who were gay and trying to use drugs to get in the pants of straight guys. Did you ever have any experience like that?
I should make like a full disclosure that I'm not straight.
Oh,
but yeah, I do have experiences with that.
Yeah. Okay, so because I was wondering if it's that like a thing that happened to me, or it's actually something that is more stereotypical. Because
right now I know of at least 2 dealers that are taking payment in sex, and I know that one of them is bisexual and takes essentially just about everything. So yeah, totally normal.
Yeah, and so straight or gay, and the ones I knew had a thing about breaking out straight guys. They were like into that, and well, whatever. And the drug dealer is not your friend, and never chase a drug. If you take something and it doesn't do any effect on you, don't chase it. Don't throw more in, because it could be that your body is in a weird place where it's sort of like metabolizing it, but it's not really affecting you. But if you chase it with something else, you might OD. You never chase something if it's not having an effect on you.
I once made brownies. It was actually the first time I did brownies. No, sorry, muffins. We did muffins. And we had like a completely fucked up concentration. We made butter. So, dude, every single muffin had at least 1.5 grams in it.
Oh, God.
Not butter. Stuff.
What?
And yeah, I shit you not, dude. We made a dark green concentrate out of the butter. It was fucking nasty.
Oh,
it was
God.
absolutely nasty, right? And every single muffin had at least 1.5 grams of yeah, stuff in it.
So
And
you guys hit the roof, like just one
my
bite
God,
and you're
my,
gone.
my, one muffin and
Uh-huh.
nothing happened. 40 minutes, 50 minutes, and we're like, okay,
Ah.
after 50 minutes, we should feel something. So we told ourselves, come on, we're gonna eat all of them. Like we shared like 12 muffins between four people, so
Oh
everyone had three muffins.
God. Oh
So
God. You
everyone had effectively
tasted.
like 4.5 grams into us.
Yeah. And then you hit.
There
And
was
then you
one
hit.
of my worst experiences, I shit you not, that I ever had, and I
Sure.
took a lot of crazy shit, but that was just fucked. That was just
Yeah.
fucked.
How old were you?
Oh, I was a lot younger. I was like in my early 20s.
Yeah, no, yeah, they can fuck you up badly. I mean, you can have
Yeah,
like a heart attack or something.
yeah.
I mean,
We
it's
were
not,
fucking dying.
yeah, no fucking around. I mean, it's dangerous as shit. And like, yeah, well, that's an example. Don't chase your drugs. Don't chase your high. You'll wind up in a very, very bad place. Because I bet if you'd just been patient and waited for an hour and a half or so, it would have kicked in, right?
Mm,
Yeah. No.
absolutely. We
Yeah.
just were unlucky that it took a bit longer than usual, and that's really it. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
now we know. Now we know.
Now you know. Yeah. No. 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 And the weird thing is that, see, I don't know. Do you have like a compulsive personality that you have to take it? I mean, is it like when you go cold turkey? Is it like an effort or just?
Here's the really weird thing about me. I am largely completely immune against addiction. I
Me too.
I I can smoke for 6 months, 2, 3 packs a day, no problem, and I can drop it from one day to another, no problem.
Yeah. Me too.
But there are a few substances that always get back to me, and
Such
I
as.
can't prevent it. I would prefer not to talk about it.
Okay. But no.
But
No.
yeah,
No.
there's some stuff that really just I can't stop it.
Oh, so you have to make a conscious effort of will.
Like I have to make a very conscious effort to like not do it, but I know that over time the it just becomes like I don't know if you ever had like addiction, but
No. No, I haven't.
it's y- it it's not as much as you feel like shit, but every waking moment of everything you do, say, think, and feel is concerned with only getting the substance. And it's like I can't write, I can't think, I can't eat, I can't sleep, I can't do anything. I can't even be like properly awake. You just lay there and struggle not to buy it, but you know that in a day, 2 days, 3 days, you eventually will buy it because you just can't take the sort of pain anymore, even.
No.
And that
Yeah.
really sucks, but
Yeah, it certainly does. Because like recently, back in May, I went on a 2-week fast. It was only water, no food, no calorie intake of any sort whatsoever. And yeah, the first day was sort of rough, but the second day was like okay, and third day I didn't even notice it. And frankly, the only reason I ended it after 2 weeks was that I started having like these weird heart palpitations.
yeah.
And later, a friend of mine told me, "Moron, you should have been like, because replenishing your electrolytes. That's what it was, and it was no big deal. I mean, I didn't even have to break the fast, but it really was not. I missed the flavor of food, but I wasn't actually missing food. If that makes any sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. It makes sense.
Yeah,
I do fasting for various purposes as well, and it's
really?
exactly like that. The first few days are like no problem, but eventually you get into a state where you are just so. I don't need food anymore, but eventually your body may have some issues, as you said, heart palpitations,
Yeah.
or in my case, I start to get exceptionally tired. Like I can't even properly wake up, but there's like something else.
Oh, that's interesting. No, I didn't have that, though. I do. People told me that I was like very like low energy. Even though I was alert and I was like, cognitively I was fine, but they said my personality, it was like the volume had been turned down on my personality.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that was pretty interesting because also I saw some videos that I recorded at that time, and they had that vibe, that like low rev vibe.
Yeah, they sort of dialed down, low key.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, and that was the thing. What I missed, I started like I missed the act of chewing, of like tasting food. That's what I missed, but it wasn't like a craving for food.
I actually figured out a way to pass that. It's fucking nasty, but
Go ahead.
do you have what's the term bouillon bricks? Essentially bricks that you use to
bouillon,
make soup
yeah,
out
yeah,
of.
yeah, yeah, of course, yeah.
buy a packet of those
Uh-huh.
and just slowly nibble on one of them. It lasts you 2 hours or something like that.
Yeah?
And it's really tasty, actually.
No, but
And
I would consider that like, breaking the spirit of the fast, because I'm planning on doing another one in November, of going another 2 weeks in November. And I'm really looking forward to it, to tell you the truth. Because also
May I ask, spiritual reasons,
no,
political, ideological?
just for the hell of it. No.
Right,
No,
right.
no. But the thing is, I really liked it because it felt like a cleaning out, I had some weird effects that I didn't quite understand later, and actually I haven't been able to figure out a good reason for it. Well, I'll bring it up now. I mean, since you're on the same page as this, you might find it of interest. See, okay, you, to be perfectly vulgar, you fart, right? And what's fart? It's
Right,
just
yeah.
methane from from food processing, right?
Yeah.
So I defecated the first couple of days, and then after that, there's nothing to defecate. So that was that, right? But then after about 10 days, I started farting again. And I was wondering to myself, how is this happening? It's an idle question, and if there's any doctor or gastroenterologist who's listening to this, absurd as that may be, but you never know. I'd
Yeah,
like
you
to
never know.
Put it in the comment. Why did that happen? Because after 10 days, it wasn't like constant farting, okay? But it was sort of like, it happened more than once. And I was like, where is this coming from if I'm only ingesting water?
Same issue with
Really?
me, but with burping.
Yeah, but burping, you're swallowing air. That makes more sense.
Yeah, just to a certain degree, but I don't know. Okay, please continue. Please continue.
No. You tell me, because I'm tired of talking about my farts. I'm interested in your burps.
Oh god, I genuinely here's the thing. The first 4 or 5 days, nothing. Increasingly less burping, increasingly less any kind of bodily discharge. Right, and after day 7 and 8, out of fucking nowhere, I became a burping machine gun.
Okay.
The nastiest, loudest, deepest. I was a fucking T-Rex at that moment.
Okay, that's pretty.
I
That's
had
damn
no
funny.
idea. I had no idea why.
Oh, that's amusing. Are you planning on doing it again?
Fasting, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably pretty soon, actually.
Oh yeah. When are you planning on, and how long are you planning on going?
I do 2 weeks. Well, okay. Here's the thing. I do 2 weeks at 500 calories. 1 week to basically get back to normal, and then I do 2 weeks at completely nothing.
Oh wow, that's pretty hardcore.
It's not really. I mean,
Well,
there are people who go completely insane. They go. I know a friend of mine that unironically fasted for 2.5 months on 100 calories a day, and he only ate basically a handful of nuts every single day because he wanted to be like Buddha.
Jesus. 100 calories a day. For those of you who don't know, a human body usually burns about 3,500 calories per day. Okay, so if he's ingesting 100 calories, roughly, he's going to
Is a relation 2 slices of white bread toast without anything on them have 120 calories.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah, it must be maybe 4 or 5 nuts. That's 120 calories. Yeah.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. How much weight did he lose over this period of time? How long was it? 2 months, you said?
2.5 months, yeah.
Jesus, how much weight did he lose?
I actually don't know, but I don't know the number. But he got pretty bad at the end. He actually I know this isn't funny and stuff.
No.
But he actually came down with a severe case of anorexia, because he was completely unable and unwilling to take in food at the end of it.
Oh no, he got psycho about it. I mean,
completely.
No, that's not healthy. That's just stupid.
Yeah.
But
it started out with this sort of religious idea of, I'm gonna be like Buddha. I'm gonna get my enlightenment by eating nuts under a tree, and yeah.
Well, that's interesting, because a lot of people, when anorexic girls, I understand anorexic girls perfectly after the fast. And I have no sympathy for fat people, because the anorexic girls, I realize they feel completely powerless in their lives. And so it's the one thing that they have some power over. And it's a weird kind of psychological lording it over their own body. And I understand them, and I feel terribly sorry for them. And on the other hand, for fat people, no sympathy. No sympathy, just a little bit of willpower. And these fat fuckers who are 10,000 pounds.
One has to one has to make a very conscious difference between people who are just fat for I don't care, and people who legitimately, like, food addiction. I know it sounds weird, but food addiction is a horrible issue. Like, I've got a friend of mine who is addicted to food, and legitimately it's one of the worst addictions that I've ever seen. Like, it really sounds weird, but it actually is an illness. And people who are addicted to food, like, for example, binge eating.
Yeah.
I mean, they do get my sympathy. Like, they do need therapy. They do need help. But people who are just like, this is my genetics, and then they eat like 9,000 calories of burgers in a single sitting. No, fuck you, go die, fuck off.
Well, yeah, it's that the thing is, see, okay, yeah, food addiction. Yeah, we can call it food addiction. But I don't know. I guess what happens is that precisely because I do not have that addiction gene, I can't empathize perhaps with people who are truly addicted. But on the other hand, there are certain times that I've desperately wanted something, and I recognize that it's just my decision not to do something. And so that's ultimately what addiction is all about, that you feel that the desire for something overwhelms your ability to control that desire.
Well, one of the biggest problems of addiction, at least in my case, is that you can do stuff unconsciously. Like, for example, I caught myself once when I said, hey, no more of this stuff. I'm not going to go into detail what I was taking at that moment, but no more of this stuff. And, one day I woke up, got dressed, went outside for a small walk, said hi to my dealer, bought something, took something with him. And as I'm snorting it, I'm basically like, wait, how the fuck did I get here? What the fuck?
Isn't this the shit that I wasn't going to do? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like this unconscious doing of stuff is horrible. It's fucking horrible.
No, I can't. I started smoking pot when I was 13, on my 13th birthday. It was quite a day for me because I got drunk, I got stoned for the first time, and I got laid for the first time. And then I went home and I got my Social Security card, which is the your work permit, and I was thus able to get my first job, my first employment, all on the same day. It was quite a day for me. It was like my Catholic bar mitzvah. But anyway, I smoked a lot, 13, 14 years old, and I took a lot of pills, a lot of acid, and then I started smoking cigarettes, and I found cigarettes a lot more addictive than pot or just about anything else.
Yeah, much worse.
Yeah, and I got up to be, I don't know, a pack and a half, 2 packs a day at one point when I was like in my late teens, early 20s. And then it sort of like slowly tapered off. I mean, now I'm like smoking like maybe, 2-3 cigarettes a day and maybe a cigar every 3-4 days, something like that. And it's I understand addiction. I mean, but like, for instance, when I was like a broke student and I ran out of money for cigs, right? I wanted cigarettes really, really badly, but it was on my mind all the time, but it was easy to distract myself. I don't know. I don't quite understand addiction, okay? And I suppose it's just a blind spot that I have, that because I don't have that addictive gene.
Exactly. Some people are just naturally sort of immune against addiction, and other people are really susceptible to it.
I'm compulsive.
Yeah, absolutely.
But not obsessive. The first time I went to Las Vegas, I sat at a blackjack table on a Friday night, and I didn't get up until Sunday morning.
Yeah.
And then I didn't go again for 6 months. And it was sort of like, like I have to keep on playing, but I can get up and walk away and, and forget about it. I suppose there are some people like that. I mean, because the compulsivity, and like that compulsivity that drives me to do certain things with exceeding amounts of care. I can't tell you how many times I've like rendered a video and watched the whole thing, and I didn't like a certain cut or a certain thing. Just did it again, And it's nobody was going to notice, but I was going to notice, and that's enough. That's enough of a reason to redo it. And so I suppose what's interesting is the difference between compulsivity rather, and obsessiveness. I mean, what's the issue between being addicted to something and wanting to do it a lot and then being able to walk away from it?
Yeah.
It's kind of interesting. But wow, I'd never pegged you as a guy who didn't like drugs in his day. I mean, I thought that you were like on the straight and narrow kind of thing.
Mate, I'm a fucking sociologist. What the fuck do you think I do with my time?
But let me ask you something. In sociology, you know, I mean, the whole notion of political correctness. You're politically on the right. Am I correct?
Oh no.
Tell me.
I mean a lot about being an old centrist,
Yeah.
but I am actually a radical centrist. I refuse the notion of subscribing to any singular ideology. If a genocide is the way to go, let's do a genocide. If socialism is the way to go, let's do socialism. The idea that there is one right type of government for all people of this world is, frankly speaking, kind of silly.
Yeah.
Different countries, different mentalities will require different types of governance.
Yeah.
One country may flourish under socialism. Another country may really need fascism.
Yeah.
That's why I stand.
Yeah. Yeah, because like, for instance, I lived in Chile during the Pinochet dictatorship, during the 80s, right? And
Did you take a helicopter ride?
no, but I once got arrested by a military patrol. I spent the night in jail. It was pretty cool.
Nice.
It was pretty cool, actually. And I participated in protests both against the Pinochet government and in favor of the Pinochet government. And for the same reason, because they were hot girls, you know. That was the whole point of being in protest, right? And see, at the time I was a kid, I was a teenager, I didn't know shit. And so I was like against the Pinochet dictatorship because it was a dictatorship. Retrospectively, I think it was the greatest government that Chile ever had. It did a lot of good. It created a middle class. And so it basically accomplished the things that the socialists claimed that they were trying to accomplish but never accomplished. You know, the Pinochet dictatorship actually did it, you know. Yeah. You know, have you ever spoken with the distributist?
No, but I've heard the name
he's
quite often, actually.
Yeah, he's a smart guy. He's a statistician getting a PhD, and he's a smart man, and you and him would have a lot to talk about because he also agrees that no system of government is inherently moral or immoral, for that matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's situational, and whichever government is the best for the particulars of that society, that culture, that people at that particular moment in time. And I completely agree, because retrospectively I realized that the Pinochet dictatorship was one of the best things that ever happened to Chile. And it created the conditions for prosperity, which have endured, closing in on 30 years after the end of the dictatorship. I mean, it's been because the dictatorship ended in 1990. And 27 years after the fact, the society in Chile is still both, you know, dealing with the after effects of the dictatorship, but the prosperity that exists today in Chile is directly because of the dictatorship. And there's no other way to look at it. Okay, which of course drives leftists in Chile absolutely bonkers, because it's true, you know.
I would just like to interject and say I'm not educated on Chile, so I can't.
No.
I don't have any data, so I'm not making a statement. Or that's what I'm saying.
No, I do have the data on the issue. I could happily point you in the direction of more data on this particular issue that would sort of like shore up that opinion, and because it's a very uncomfortable opinion. Okay, to claim that a right-wing, they were never fascists, but they were a hard right-wing. They were nationalists. That's what they were. And they created the conditions insofar as their economic policy and the certain social structures that they created in terms of healthcare, in terms of retirement funding, that created the prosperity. And the fact that these institutions have not been eliminated or even touched by the subsequent socialist government shows how effective these institutions created by the military dictatorship actually were, because they did create prosperity. You know. And so anyway, the point that I'm trying to make is, along with distributors, you'd get along with him real well, because he is also of that opinion, and I have reluctantly come to that opinion, because I was always of the opinion that representative democracy was what we wanted. That's the only way. But with a little bit more...
Let me pose a quick question.
Sure.
Do you think a Soviet Union would have won the Second World War with a representative democracy?
Well, a Soviet Union, no.
No, like Uh, Funny that you mentioned dictatorships because I absolutely despise communism. I absolutely despise it in any incarnation, be it theoretical academic communism or be it applied communism, be it
Is
socialism.
this because of some sort of personal experience on your part?
Oh yeah, personal experience. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, personal experience. I can make it short. About half of my family is dead because of communism.
Really?
Uh, yeah, let's not touch on that. But yeah, yeah,
Okay.
basically. I fucking despise them. But even like even if I were to drop all emotions that I have, I think that communism and socialism are one of the biggest dangers to human society as a whole.
Yes.
But at the same time, Stalin and Lenin did a lot of good for Russia.
Well, no,
Like
I
you
studied
gotta
Russian history.
appreciate them.
No, I studied Russian history, and actually, I'd have to disagree with that statement.
Oh really?
Yeah.
My central argument is the modernization.
No. That modernization was on its way anyway. No, no.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, I can say this specific because my thesis in university was the administrative decentralization of the provisional governments between February and October of
Oh, dude,
1917.
that's fucking amazing. Can you link me the thing?
No, it's not online. I did it 20 years ago, and it was
Can you send me the thing?
I have it around here. Oh no, I have it in
Oh,
Chile, but I'll tell you the upshot. It's very
okay.
simple. See, there was the February Revolution where the Tsar was overthrown, and there was the October Revolution that everyone knows where the Soviets took over, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
The Bolsheviks, right? And
Yeah.
it's not quite as clear cut because what really happened was that it was the revolution, quote unquote, but then they actually had to win the country, and that started the Civil War that
Mm-hmm.
really ended
Yeah.
in 1921. But let's leave that aside for the time being, between the Reds and the Whites, right?
Mm-hmm.
But between February and October,
Also,
it,
sorry to interrupt you, but Admiral Kolchak is basically my husbando. Just saying.
okay, well, my point insofar as the provisional governments are concerned is that, you see, they were led first by Prince Lvov and then eventually by Kerensky. There were actually four provisional governments, and each
Mm-hmm.
successive government was just a reshuffling of the cabinet and it becoming more left leaning. But the point is, um, what I argued was that the reason that the provisional governments failed was that they implemented an idea of the cadets, the constitutional democrats. They're
Mm-hmm.
called cadets because of their initials, KD.
Mm-hmm.
And what happened was that they tried to devolve administrative power from Moscow or St. Petersburg to the localities, to not
Mm-hmm.
only just each individual, but to eat down to the oblast, to the basic province.
Yeah.
And these oblasts did not have the people to handle these administrative tasks because they'd always been like subservient to St. Petersburg and just like nodding and just saying whatever St. Petersburg said, they'd
Mm-hmm.
do.
Mm-hmm.
And so they didn't know what to do with this. And so the basic administrative functions were not carried out. And this added to the societal chaos at all levels of society. Because it wasn't merely that there was chaos in St. Petersburg and Moscow. There was chaos in the entire country because people who were unprepared were expected to carry out societal tasks that they had no training, no experience for. And it was sort
Mm-hmm.
of like, here, take it, do something, fix this. And everything from garbage collecting to marriage licenses to all the normal, typical functions of a civil society that in Russia had been so centralized that when they decentralized, it created chaos. And so the implicit argument was that because of what the cadets did, it created the chaos that allowed the Bolsheviks.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bolsheviks, just as Kerensky himself said, they picked up power from the streets because the chaos was, it was all around. It was chaos.
But wasn't there a strong Bolshevik influence even before that? I mean, if you look at, for example, the what was it called, the Rada, the soldier councils, for example.
Yes, there was influence, but it was not a dominant influence.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
To think that the October Revolution was a done deal just because the Tsar fell, no, that's not an obvious statement.
Oh no. I would never imply that.
Yeah. Yeah, that they were around, that they were a player. Yeah, but there were other players too, far right-wing parties, the cadets themselves. Okay, the political situation was fluid. The issue, oops, oh sorry, my camera went off. The issue was that the the cadets and then Kerensky with his socialist cabal, and they were socialist like socialist light. Okay, they weren't obviously they weren't even Mensheviks. Or was he Menshevik? No, he wasn't. I forgot actually. Shit, I forgot all this crap.
Kerensky wasn't a Menshevik.
No, he wasn't. But anyway, the point, they gave away power out of a sense of idealism. Prince Lvov actually was adamant about this issue of devolving powers to the oblast level, because he thought that the centralization was why the Revolution of February had happened, and that if only the power was devolved back to the oblast and they had their own power, eventually the monarchy could return. Because Prince Lvov actually was of the opinion, privately at least, that the monarchy could return at some future date and become a constitutional monarchy, sort of like the British model. Because do keep in mind, the elites, the intelligentsia in Russia at that time were looking very seriously at England as the model nation, as to where Russia should go as an empire.
Would you say that it was, quote unquote, almost exclusive an English model? Because from what I've gathered, there was a strong French influence as well.
Oh, of course, they spoke French privately. I mean, yeah, they were very afraid of the whole notion of a terror, okay, which ironically is exactly what they got, right? Like a Jacobin kind of terror, after the fall of the Tsar and all that. Okay, and they were very interested in, especially the cadets, especially when they were in a position of power. They were terrified of the whole thing tipping over into violence, and that sort of street violence. But they had this ideology, that they had to devolve power, that was the only way to preserve peace, and it only created chaos.
Yeah, who would have thought?
Well, no. I mean, from their point of view, they didn't know. They didn't know any better. Okay.
Well, but it was a very limited point of view. I know this is an anecdote and probably is not true, but this is an anecdote of just a distant relative of mine that served in a certain legion in in the Red-White War, in the Civil War in Russia.
Yeah.
And he basically what he told. Okay, so basically the anecdote goes like this. He went to a village and people greeted him and asked him how the front was going. And he told them that, this is the situation. And they looked at him completely confused and said, wait, are we not fighting Germany anymore?
Yeah, they didn't know.
The news that that the First World War was essentially over didn't reach them in no shape, way or form.
Yeah.
They were like, if you look at Siberia, or even more to the east of it, the level of infrastructure, the level of information was abysmal, absolutely abysmal.
Yeah, they have no idea. So we have no idea of. It is incomprehensible to us how isolated these people were.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so you telling me that some ancient relative like great uncle or great uncle or grandfather, whomever, something like that happened? Yeah, totally reasonable. I've been to Eastern Europe. I go there a lot, as a matter of fact. And
can I ask where exactly you hang out?
Oh yeah, Ukraine. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I was in the Ukraine last year.
Where were you?
All I can say is I was pretty close to Russia, and we were swimming, and that's all I can say to it.
Were you near Kharkov?
I'm not gonna.
Okay. Well, yes or no? Just near Kharkov or not?
Actually, no.
Oh, okay.
But not too far away. Actually, not too far.
Oh, okay. So, so if you weren't too far away from Kharkov, then you weren't that close to the fighting.
No, not the fighting. No.
Man, the whole situation. I mean, Ukraine, that shit show is going to go on forever.
Oh yeah, it is. Like this day, like I'm actually kind of well read on Eastern Europe, starting essentially like everything eastern of Germany. But Ukraine is a puzzle that continues to baffle me.
What do you mean?
I don't understand Ukraine, to be honest.
What do you mean?
Okay. So, in how do I put this? For the longest time, um, it was to a certain degree part of Poland, the Commonwealth, part of Lithuania, part of Russia, with many distinct cultures that were largely influenced by essentially steppe nomad fighting, therefore the evolution of the Cossack. But I never took them as having a sort of national identity. And suddenly this entire huge piece of land is carved out after the Second World War, after the dissolution of the Soviet Union. And it's like weird to me. It's just weird. I don't get it.
Well, Ukraine is a distinct language. And they have traditionally had a distinct cultural belief. They see themselves separate from Russians.
Really? Do they?
They do.
Because what I found is that, like, if you were to, for example, visit Sevastopol, Ukrainians, they had a completely different outlook on life. They had a different dialect. Like they were essentially a completely separate culture to, say, essentially Belarusian Ukrainians, and they again are completely different to essentially quote unquote Russian Ukrainians. And if you were to go like really to the west and check out the border across like Slovakia and Hungary, again a completely different culture essentially. And the dialect, I mean, sure they do appear to have a common language, but the dialects are so vastly different that, I mean.
What, the Ukrainian
you never
dialects?
Know. Yeah, absolutely.
I wouldn't know because I don't speak Ukrainian. Do you?
I understand it a bit, yeah.
Oh, okay. No, I unfortunately do not speak either Russian or Ukrainian. But I know that Western Ukraine, they feel Ukrainian, especially around Lvov. They feel like they are, their own country. And even in places where it's Russian dominated, even the ethnically Russians feel Ukrainian. They feel solidarity with the country that was carved out of the Soviet Union. And overall they feel that they are European. I mean, they desperately want to be a part of EU. And Russia recognizes that it can't allow Ukraine to become part of the EU, or much less part of the Warsaw Pact, which would be inevitable once Ukraine, became friendly or partner or whatever program with the EU. They can, and because NATO basically violated the promise that they made in '91. The promise that, okay, we'll allow East and West Germany to reunite so long as NATO never encroaches towards the East, and NATO promptly broke that promise.
Yeah. I mean, that's completely fascinating to me.
What?
So many people are like, Russia is the aggressor. But all that Russia did really was just to sit back and be like, guys, could you please stop? Guys, please stop. Guys, stop.
No. Well, my thinking is that, see, the Russians and Putin specifically, they've played this chess game better than the West, and he's winning, and he's gotten everything that he's wanted, and nobody has really messed with him seriously, and he hasn't had any serious setback. He got Crimea, which he wanted. He's able to shore up Syria with a relatively minimal effort. He just keeps on chipping at Ukraine, keeping it like, I mean, it's a tragedy for the soldier or two soldiers or three soldiers who are killed per week there in that area. But that constant chipping just keeps Ukraine unstable and therefore not really eligible to join up with the Europeans or NATO. And Putin is never going to invade Ukraine. Why would he? Because why would he bother to take over 43 million people and have to manage that whole country? That's stupid,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so he's never going to do it, And also the West has never been sympathetic towards Putin, who truly thinks that it is a tragedy that how many Russians were left outside of Russia after the collapse of the Soviet Union?
We are talking several. I would say
million?
actually several. I would say several dozen million. Yeah.
Yeah, 20 million. That sounds about right. Ethnic Russians.
I would argue maybe even more, but yeah.
Oh, it doesn't really matter. I mean, we could look up the figures, and there are a lot of ethnic Russians who are no longer really ethnic because they married Belarusians, and you know what are they, Russian or Belarusian? You know, so let's just say for the sake of argument that's 20-30 million. Okay, and Russia's population is what, 120 million at this point? Let me just check real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Check it up.
Russian population. Yeah, and this is all Russian, including 144 million. Okay, so. So yeah, I mean, from the point of view of the Russians, of Putin, he looks at the fact that 1 in 8 Russians was left outside of Russia after Christmas Day 1991, or whenever it was that the Soviet Union collapsed, officially ended, right? And for him, that's a tragedy. And the West has never recognized that is number one, a true belief on his part, and a valid concern on his part. You know,
the West has a very weird attitude towards these kind of things. In 1938, they sold out Czechoslovakia to Germany.
Right.
In 1945, they sold out Poland beyond any belief to the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
I mean, like, oh, dude, the Polish tragedy.
Oh, yeah, they moved the parallelogram. How many kilometers to the west?
I think it was like 200, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It was a lot, like a lot. like for the members of the audience, okay, what happened? Okay, imagine you're Poland, okay? Several times for European history, you drove off Muslim hordes and essentially saved Europe, okay?
Several times.
Then Germany comes knocking on your door, and you're like, okay, cunt, let's fucking do it. You cost the German Wehrmacht, I think I don't even know how many soldiers. You get stomped, okay? But everyone got stomped by Germany.
Yeah.
You fight tooth and nail. You never surrender. You have a resistance movement, like fuck. And as the Soviet army is encroaching upon you, you're like, okay, dude, let's get this done. Let's stand up. Let's join them. Let's fuck them over. And in the last moment, it's like, okay, Poland, fuck you. We're gonna move your entire country. Fuck your citizens. Fuck everything you stand for.
Yeah, it's a tragedy. Well, that's why right now the Poles are the only ones taking the Muslim threat seriously, and they're not fucking around. And you know, I love the trolling of the Poles when they said that Germany owes them 1 trillion euros for war damages. Oh, okay. That's epic trolling. Epic trolling.
Okay, if we take a refugee, okay, you pay war reparation. I love it. I love it.
I thought that was just brilliant.
They actually do have a point.
They're right. They're absolutely right. You know, no question. You know,
not really about the refugee crisis. Like that's something that's up to their constitution essentially. But I mean,
the war reparations. You mean? Yeah,
the war reparations, dude. Have you seen what Germany did to Poland?
That was trolling on an epic level, man. I mean, that's like shit. You know, you got some fucking meme. Fuck you. We just demanded 1 trillion euros from the Germans.
Okay, here's the thing. Like I'm not religious in any shape, way, or form. Mm-hmm. But if Jan Sobieski were to call for a crusade, might.
What? If Jan Sobieski would what?
If Jan Sobieski would rise from his grave and call for a crusade, might. I'm gonna be one of his winged hussars. Let's retake Constantinople, my man.
Yeah.
I love the Poles. I love them so much.
Sobieski, for those who don't know, Prince Sobieski was the guy who fought the Muslims. Where did he fight? There was a famous battle.
Vienna.
No. That was the Mongols who got to the doors of Vienna, or did they fight at Vienna?
No. Right. So okay. So get low. Okay. Oh, do Vienna.
Ottomans. Vienna was the Mongols, because I said
Vienna.
What?
The Mongols got to Vienna, yes.
Yeah.
But Sobieski, his famous battle was against the Ottomans.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. So
also
the Ottomans were besieging. Yeah, also at Vienna. Yeah.
Okay.
So the Ottomans were besieging Vienna. Vienna was fighting like crazy. They elected a mercenary captain. He was like 70 years old or something. Uh-huh. Like a crazy cunt. Like he fought in every war in Europe, and he organized the defenses, and they were fighting tooth and nail. Mm-hmm. And as their defenses were collapsing, an army of the Holy League arrived, led by Jan fucking Sobieski and several thousand winged hussars.
Right.
And they smashed the Ottomans so hard, it essentially ended any kind of encroachment upon Europe. They fucking decimated them.
So the Poles saved Europe once. Maybe they'll save them again.
Maybe. Who knows?
Yeah, no, because my whole thinking on the whole Muslim invasion that's going on, because there's really no other way to look at it. I don't understand what happened. Well, actually, I do understand what's happened to Europe, but how is it that they are allowing this to happen? How is it that none of them grow some balls and like stop this?
I think sociology of elites is like, I think the core word we're looking for.
Yeah, that's the thing that you're studying.
Right. It's essentially this very separate group of people that essentially, quote unquote, inherit political positions of power and economical positions of power and social positions of power. And many of them are very much separate from ordinary day-to-day life. So what they see is the well-adjusted Muslim professor. And let's not kid ourselves, there are some fantastic Muslims out there, even in Europe, like, absolutely. But what they don't see is what their ghettoification policies, like if you look at the ghettos in Cologne, in Hamburg, in Berlin, in Frankfurt, they don't see what they have caused. You have entire, essentially parts of cities in Germany that are segregated from the remainder of the society. And here's the problem, though. I don't think we can say it is a problem because they are Muslim. It may be, but that's a topic for a different study. But what we can very certainly say is that Muslims are a problem. Because the correlation between, for example, criminality and a Muslim faith, or at least being from a majorly Muslim country, at least in Germany, is insane. Yeah. Absolutely insane.
Yeah. There's no other way to look at it.
And here's the thing. We have to get away from this sort of racism debate. When you say, hey, if you look at the German crime statistics for murder, then we'll find that the top 10 countries usually are Muslim countries. Origin of perpetrator, that is.
Right.
That is not meant to say that every Algerian is inherently a murderer.
No.
That's fucking insane.
Yeah.
I mean, the slogan, not all Muslims, is statistically completely valid. Absolutely 100% valid.
Yes.
Because it's about prevalence, only about prevalence. If you allow a group of people, a group of people into your country, say 10,000 of them, and they have a prevalence that is 10, 20 times as high as your natives to commit a crime, that's a silly idea, in my opinion. But again, the constitution debate. For example, Germany is bound by their constitution to take in refugees. It's Article 16A1.
I'm shaking my head.
Yeah, I know, but I also get the notion behind it. I mean, regardless of your faith, your gender, sexuality, age, and so on and so forth, if your country is being bombed to shit, and you have a wealthy country that is able to support you, let's not kid ourselves. If Germany had actually tried to support them, they would have done it. I think it is a moral thing to do to take those refugees in, wait until the situation stabilizes, and then send them back into their own country. I think there's no problem with that. I don't think that's really controversial. The problem arises when you have such an inefficient bureaucratic apparatus as the European refugee, how can we call it, refugee institutions, essentially, that we've had a similar situation with the Turkish in the 60s, where it was, hey, those Turks, they are only guest workers, they'll work here, and then they'll go home.
They didn't.
Now the Turks are the biggest minority in Germany.
Yeah. But worse is that they're not being assimilated.
No. Oh, well, it depends. Like, here's the funny thing. The older generations are assimilating surprisingly well. The younger generations, dude, no. Stop. Stop.
It's that, look, my thinking, you know the ship of Theseus paradox, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, for our listeners who don't know, the ship of Theseus is Theseus had the ship and he got to Athens and they took the ship and they put it on display. And what happened over the years, the wood started to rot. And so they started replacing those pieces of rotting wood with new wood. And eventually they replaced the entire ship. So the question becomes, is that still the ship of Theseus? And David Hume, centuries later, came up with the notion of, well, what happens if you took all those pieces of rotting wood and assembled those into another ship? Would that be the ship of Theseus? You know, and you know, a very interesting idea. My thinking has always been the if you replace slowly, I cannot say at what speed this replacement would be, but slowly, then yeah, you still have the ship of Theseus. If you do it like in one big shot, then you don't. Okay, and I think that that's what's happening is that they're doing it in one big shot, and the shock to the system is too much. It's too great. And these people are not assimilating.
Above that, we have to make a very crucial distinction about. I think the two main markers of governance are legitimacy and efficiency.
Right.
And if a government decides to say, like, if a country, like, let's even go to the length of say, hey, we had a complete referendum, and the absolute majority of all citizens decided, hey, we want to take in unlimited numbers of everyone. We don't even care about background checks. We don't care about them being legitimate asylum seekers or not. Everyone's going to get a citizenship after a single week. If a country decides to do that, I think it has a right to do that. I think it has absolutely, like, we don't have a right to say, no, don't do that. You are not allowed to do that because of my feelings and my morality. At the same time, the opposite has to be the truth. If Poland says no refugees, we have to accept that.
If the Poles decide no refugees, we have to accept that.
Yes.
Absolutely. But Merkel is not accepting it. She's saying she's forcing the EU to sort of like go after Poland and Hungary and you know, punitively. You know, I don't know where that is exactly going to end, you know. I mean
right. The assumption that you can bully Eastern Europe to follow a centralized government in Brussels or Berlin, for that matter, is complete insanity.
Yeah, I think
you have a militant individual, I say militant nationalists in Eastern Europe, right? People that just came out of a totalitarian regime, people that still know the taste, but it's like if a secret police busts down your door and arrests your family, you know. And suddenly along comes Germany and is like, oh, we will now make the same. Haha. Take a refugee or we will punish you.
It's a big fuck you very much. That's what Eastern Europe is basically saying. And yeah, more power to them.
I'm not saying they are right, like logically, morally, rationally right, but they have a right to feel that way. After surviving essentially 50 years of foreign rule, the nationalist beliefs, of course, are pretty high in Eastern Europe.
Well, I completely agree with that. My thinking at this point is that Western Europe is lost. I mean, look, the statistics came out like just a little while ago saying that France, by the year 2050, will be minority French. And that by just a couple of years from now, if not now, I forget when, but if it's not now, it's going to be in a couple of years, that the majority of new babies born in France will be of non-French babies. You know, what does that tell you? And demographics is everything.
I have to stop you right there.
Shoot.
Because France is all kinds of fucked when it comes to their statistical system. And I wouldn't trust a single article about their statistic.
Really?
Like, for my life. Yeah, here's the thing.
There are you would know better than you, so I'm asking out of curiosity. Please do tell.
So, for example, I even think I saw an article by I think was it the Drudge Report or something like that. They talked about essentially the same talking points. The big problem here really is France, with the exception of a handful of studies that are not governmentally conducted, does not keep track of ethnicities in any shape, way, or form. It's actually illegal there.
Really?
Yep, the government, like Germany, has a fantastic statistical system. Fantastic statistical system.
Oh, they're
like,
Germans. What do you expect?
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you have race of the perpetrator, age of the perpetrator. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if like you even could find sexuality and stuff like that out.
Sure.
Like details. But France, not really. So when I actually did a video way back in the day where I dealt with French crime statistics, and the big problem is that you can't really differentiate. Like, they say, for example, the only distinction really is it a French citizen or is it not a French citizen? There's one paper by, I would have to look up the name, that deals with Maghreb, people that are whose parents, at least one parent, is from Maghreb, which essentially is Morocco and the surrounding regions there. But that's a private research paper. That is data that was collected by the researcher in prisons, not by any sort of central statistical agency. And so I would be very careful with any statement that France makes, because it can sound incredibly fatalistic, incredibly fast. Because say, hey, we're gonna create this category of not French, and that is everyone that is not a French citizen, and that was not born a French citizen, and whose parents were not French citizens. And of course, if you do it that way, of course the majority will not be French citizens. But looking at them and like culturally, like the way they behave, the language, their looks, their ethnicity, they would be 100% to an outside observer.
Right. Okay. Be that as it may.
But sorry, but yeah, there is a problem if you value, say, ethnic homogeneity. There's a big problem in Western Europe. Yes.
I don't value ethnic homogeneity. What I value is cultural homogeneity. Because I think that okay, I'm going to say something that I know that the alt-righters are going to have an absolute fit over, okay? Have you ever had a dog?
No.
Okay, well, I've owned a couple of dogs. And I'll tell you right now, every dog owner knows this. You know, like pure breed dogs, they're real stupid. They're real stupid.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, they're real stupid, and they are subject to a lot of infirmities, right? My thinking is that good mongrelization is long-term beneficial, okay? And that, you know, this ethnic purity shit that the alt-right pushes, fuck that noise, okay? I think that it's not healthy. I think that, on the contrary, that kind of... I personally have seen that. I've seen that in European aristocrats that I've happened to know who are ethnically pure, and they're borderline morons. I mean, not in a figurative sense, in a literal sense, in a sense that they have like close to 80 IQ points, right? And they are like, you know, Simon Pure, you know, but they're stupid. Okay, and we've seen this historically in all the royal houses where they intermarry with one another and they wind up all stupid, right? It happens with dogs, it happens with people, and that's the reality of it. And people don't perhaps like it, they don't want to be compared to dogs, but it's the truth. My point. I'm all in favor of racial mongrelization and I think that any kind of like ethnically pure, quote unquote, population long term is bad for the people, bad for the individual people, and for the group in general, because they lose vitality. It's just like dogs, you know. If you ever dealt with a Dalmatians are the dumbest, most hysterical dogs that ever walked the earth, right? And in my own case, I had a mongrel, you know, sort of like a mix of like, you know, what you call it, German Shepherd with probably Greyhound, but who knows, right? Smart as could be, right? The dog practically talked, right? And people are the same because we reject the notion that we are animals and subject to the same laws that govern animals. We want to think that we're these beings of light and will and intellect and all that bullshit, but we're just animals. We're just mammals who happen to walk upright. And so I don't have a problem with racial mixing or anything like that, which the alt-right, they hear me say this and they probably like, you know, breathe fire and shit bricks, right? But my point, my serious point, it's not the issue of racial quote-unquote mongrelization. I don't care about that. What I care about is an influx of people who have a culture, a set of cultural priorities that is completely different from what has worked and has created the current civilization. Again, recall, I believe in the ship of Theseus paradox, that the ship, you replace all the parts, it's still the ship, okay? I believe in the organization and the structure as being continuous, irrespective of the pieces that make up that structure and that organization. But the way it's been handled over the last few years, especially recently, I think is catastrophic, and I think that it's just just begging for a collapse. Because I'm here in London, and I go down to different parts of town, and I see these. First of all, it's full of Muslims who are not secular. They are hardcore religious believers, and they look at everybody else as unbelievers who should be converted, by kind words or the sword, either one. And if they don't want to convert, well, the sword will chop their heads off. And they say this outright, some of them, okay? Because I see the street preachers here. You can go in London and into any square, and there's going to be some Muslim with a little card table trying to convince people and proselytize them to their religion. And it is a religion that is anathema to Western culture. And that I'm afraid of it. I'm scared of it. It seems to me that that the Muslims are successfully invading Western Europe. And so that's why I come to the conclusion that Western Europe is probably lost, because it seems that the will of the people here is just, they're not up for defending their own culture. They don't even realize the value of their own culture. Just like the way that, the rich kid, the grandson or the great-grandson of the great magnate who made a lot of money and created a lot of wealth, and the grandson or the great-grandson just fritters it away on nonsense and doesn't realize the value of his inheritance until all of a sudden he finds himself destitute. Does this make any sense to you? Or am I ranting?
It does. I can follow you, but as I'm not nearly as fatalistic as you are. But I mean, that's like opinion, I would say.
No, it is completely opinion. It's a rant. Let's call it what it is. But I'm asking you honestly, do you think that Europe will survive 20 years from now?
Yes. Easy.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Of course it will survive. It will exist. Do you think that by the year 2100, it will not be a caliphate?
Right, let me put it this way. I can't remember his name, but I think it was a Polish author that said in the year 1924, 26, he said that Germany is done, the age of the Reich is over, and that Europe will see at least 100 years of continuous peace. We all know how it ended.
Yeah, it ended badly.
And all I can say is like, I'm not saying like it will sound like with a lot of pride, but it's actually meant to sound really sad. But you have a aggregate of people that are fucking with one of the countries that not only invented genocide, but actually made it into an industrialized art form. If you genuinely think that fucking with Germany is a good idea, even when they seem down on their knees, don't stop.
No, I know. I lived briefly in Germany, and I know what Germans are like when they set their minds to it. But the thing is, see,
Germans are completely autistic. Yeah.
Yeah. No, they are. I'll tell you a quick anecdote. Okay, I'm living in this town in the north of Germany, in Flensburg, close to the Danish border. Right, it's on the Baltic. It's a beautiful town. Right, so the Grosse Straße. Okay, I don't know. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation. The main thoroughfare. It's pedestrian, right? But periodically there is a car. There's a streets that cross it, right? Streets with cars, of course, and there are streetlights, and the streetlights, walk, don't walk, kind of thing, right? And so it's a Sunday or a Saturday, and I'm walking down Grosse Straße, and I get to the street, right? And everybody stopped. And there are like maybe 100 people on my side of the street, 100 people on the other side of the street. Red light. So I look up to my right on the street. There's no cars. I can see for maybe 500 meters. To my left, I can see all the way to the Baltic Sea. Maybe 700 meters away. Not a single car far away. I jaywalk, right? I can feel 200 eyes on me as I'm crossing, and all of them disapproving. I get to the
Yeah.
other side, and there's this one German guy. I will never forget him. He looks at me and he's sneering. He says 9999, and I just like hunched my shoulder and just like, that's just me, you know. But it was like the Jesus Christ. That's all I can say. I mean, you understand the experience, I'm sure.
Yeah, I actually do. I do. Yeah.
No, I understand. I
Hey,
recognize it. Go ahead.
my dude, we've been going for 2 hours 20 minutes. Would you like to wrap it up sometime soon?
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry about that.
No, no problem. No problem. I'm enjoying myself, but I still got a lot of work.
Okay,
Sadly.
okay. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, Dr. Layman has informed me that yeah, we've been going on for 2.5 hours almost, and so we're gonna have to cut it short, unfortunately, because he's got stuff to do and I've got stuff I should be doing, but I'll be leaving for tomorrow. But anyway, Dr. Layman, it's been terrific talking to you, and we really have to do this again sometime.
Yeah, we absolutely do. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so for Dr. Layman, this is Coach Red Pill bidding you a fond farewell, and I hope to see you next time. Okay.
Yeah, see you around, my dudes. Also, don't forget traps aren't gay.
and Babylon will prevail. By the way,
Yeah, Babylon prevails.
what does that mean?
Oh,
Can you tell me, or is it like a secret?
no, it's just a really long story. It's a meme.
It's a secret.
It's just
It's a secret, so he won't tell.
no,
Okay.
no, not really. It's a reference. It's a long, old school reference.
Babylon prevails, my dudes.
Babylon prevails, my dudes.
Okay. So long.
Watch me are like 80% memes and 20% like really in-depth, actually clever commentary, and it's fucking amazing to read it.
Yeah. And the other 80% is just like memes and just fucking over. Yeah, because you have that tone of voice. I don't know if that's a natural thing or if you tweak it a little bit to up it, but it's just so mocking.
Hey, I'm gonna let you know a secret, okay?
What?
I'm actually downplaying my voice as hard as I can.
Really? What's your natural voice?
I can't make it like on command, but when I'm like streaming for a longer time, like especially like in games and so on, I shit you not, I could have fucking synchronized Stewie from Family Guy.